agree. Anybody got balls? It's wrong guy. Maybe.
Players out. Coming down, coming down.
Nice.
Hey guys, what's going on? And thanks for tuning in to Legatum Gaming, where today I'm going to show you another Division video. Now today it's going to consist of an Alpha Bridge build with 2 high ends and a shotgun. Now it is a 2-shot build, so do pay attention to the build. It is a great and more importantly really fun build to use. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so first off, I'm using the military M870 as my primary weapon. Now everybody knows if you're running a shotgun, that is the gun to use. So I'm going to show you my talents I have in it first. I'm running Adept, Brutal, Unforgiving, and then of course, because I'm running Alpha Bridge, I get a 4th talent, and I'm using Competent. So all really good talents. The only thing I would say actually with this, even though I do like Unforgiving, and it is really underrated, I would probably swap that for a Deadly. And that's just a personal choice. I am just after one with Deadly. Now I do have the blueprint for it. I hope you guys did check out my vendor reset videos. There was a military M870 a couple weeks back. However, back to the build. Yeah, so Deadly for me. However, as I always say, it depends on what people run with. Okay, so let's get into the build. My sight is a rugged reflex sight, which is 7.5% critical hit chance, 5.5% headshot, and 4% critical hit damage. The magazine I'm running is a 119% magazine size, critical hit chance at 3%, and a rate of fire at 5.2. Now, just to add on to that, I do have another magazine which has better magazine size. However, the difference is this has reload speed instead of critical hit chance, and it does give me better DPS. The only thing for me is I prefer critical hit chance over reload speed with the shotgun, and that's just a personal preference, because the idea is if I'm running with 10 bullets, if I don't get them down with at least 2 or 3, then by 10 I'm dead already. So reload speed to me is a little bit obsolete with this build, and you don't really need it. It's not really required. So there's that, and the small grip, I'm running 19% critical hit damage, optimal range just for a little distance, and accuracy. So they are the sort of like talents and gear mods I'm running on my M870. Alright, so as I said before, 4-piece Alpha Bridge. I'm running it with Reckless and Savage. So let's get into my Reckless chest piece. It has enemy armor damage as a major at 5.5%, with health at 14,000 and ammo capacity. Now, it's rolled to firearms, and everything I have on here, to save you guys a little bit of time, is rolled to firearms. Every single mod I have is also rolled to firearms, to save you guys, again, a bit of time. Now, all of my performance mods are first aid self-heal. So, you could run pulse critical hit chance, so it's, again, entirely up to you. However, I prefer the self-aid heal. Okay, so let's get into my mask. Alpha Bridge mask. Again, firearms, 4% critical hit chance with a little bit of blind and deaf resistance. Now, I would swap out my blind and deaf resistance and put in a little shock resistance. As I've said in a few of my other videos, a lot of people now are running around with shock turrets. So, blind and deaf, certainly I would change that. I'm just on the hunt for a little bit better mask with a slightly better minor attribute. So, other than that, it's pretty much God roll. Getting to my knee pad. pads, Alpha Bridge with almost max health, almost maxed firearms, and then again my minors, Disorient, Bleed, and Shock. So I'm pretty happy with that because the Bleed for the flame turrets and Shock for the shock turrets. So again, I'm really happy with my knee pads. These are the sort of things you want to be aiming at if you're having sort of knee pads, these sort of talents of minors. Again, major, you could swap out and kind of put crit hit damage in there. However, as you guys can see in my major main stats at the top, it is a little squishy build. Going into my backpack, I'm running an Alpha Bridge with firearms as the major, critical hit damage, and ammo capacity. Now my hit damage is 8%, which is the max, so I'm really happy about that. And then my firearms is also pretty much maxed. So, you know, without sort of spending too much time on these, pretty much each piece of gear I have is almost maxed. Okay, so Savage Gloves, 1263 firearms with enemy armor damage, shotgun damage, and critical hit chance. Again, as I said, pretty much max. You know, critical hit chance could be a % higher. Shotgun damage, I think I'm like 20 off the max. So most of it is pretty much god roll here. If you are running this build, you gotta run it with Savage. There's no way about that. So that's my advice on that. Getting into my holster, a pretty much max holster, and I have skill haste on this. Now I could swap it for crit hit chance, and I do have another holster with crit hit chance. However, I just prefer skill haste here, even though the skill haste on the build is not good at all. It just adds a little extra just to put it in there, just to try and get my pulse and my booster back, which I will show you shortly. So that's kind of like my overall build. Obviously, just gotta mention it, but with Alpha Bridge, you gotta have 2 of the same weapons. So, you know, most of you guys know that. However, I would just put that in there. So as you can see, everything is rolled to firearms. Let's go and check out my character. Okay, so my weapon damage is 25,500. My critical hit chance is 20%. Hold on, bear with me. Let's make sure we got the right gun. Critical hit damage 56 and headshot damage is 80%. So as you guys can see from the previous videos and the previous clips that I've sort of shown, it is kind of like a 2-shot build, and in rare occasions it's 3 shots. However, it is a really fun build to use. Now the only thing I would say about this build is you are really squishy. So my stamina is at 2,800 and my toughness is at 264. So it's all about the firearms, hence my stat of 9,434. So I would recommend, if you are in a group, you've got to have a healer in your group for this build to be at least viable. If you're running solo, it's going to be pretty difficult to try and sort of fight 2 or 3 people at once without any major health. So it is like a 4-man group build, and one of them does have to have like a healer build. So as you can see, again, my skill haste 6%. So it's not great. However, my armor is pretty decent, and my enemy armor damage is fairly decent at 13% for a shotgun build. So it's all about the core damage. Alright, so let's get into what abilities you want to run with the build. So I'm running a booster shot and a pulse. Now you can change the pulse to tactical or scrambler, just depending on how you run and what the rest of your team run. Now there's various ways you can run this depending on your team. You know, most builds I make are dependent on your team. So for example, I have been running shock turret occasionally, because I have a tactician guy in the group who's been running pulse, and he's been giving me like 20% crit hit chance and damage, so I'm melting people from that. So it's just to show you, if you sort of the base of what you want this build to be, kind of like a pulse and a booster. However, you can run with a shock turret, which I would recommend, and you have a tactician guy running your pulse. Now booster is a must, even though a overheal is always nice. Booster you need for the extra damage on the build. So they're kind of like the abilities for the build. You definitely need to make sure these are kind of like maxed out for your build. So for example, if you have a tactician in your group, you want them to run the pulse, and if you have kind of like low skill power like myself, you want a booster shot. Alright, so let's get into the talents. Alright, so I'm running Critical Save, Combat Medic, Precision, and one is none. Now, I was running on the move opposed to one is none. However, I just prefer it in case you do get to that last stage and there is a lot of players and you do need that extra bullet. However, again, you could change it from on the move to one is none would be my advice. Now, I hope you guys did enjoy the video. Like I said, I didn't want to get too much into the build and go to every bit of detail, just for the sheer fact, you know, you guys do know how to play the Division. It's just a different build to use, and if you guys did want a little bit of fun, it is really fun to use. Again, just as I have to say, it is really squishy, so a healer is advised. Alright guys, let me know. Please try this build. It's really fun, and it's good to see it's back in 1.6.1, just to make things a little bit more fun again. It is really great. So let me know, drop a comment, let me know your thoughts, hit a thumbs up on the video, I would really appreciate that. And if you did like the content, there is many more videos on the channel, including Division, vendor resets, and live streams. If any of you guys did want to run with me, just drop me a message. Alright guys, thanks a lot, have a great day.